Good evening, hello and welcome. You're with the news today. This is your primetime destination news, newsmakers talking points Monday night, tonight. The big question on a day when the presidential elections have taken place, will Droupadi Murmu be the obvious choice for president? Will she be a rubber stamp president or a symbol of empowerment? That's going to be the big question as India is all set to elect its first Adivasi president. Our newsmaker tonight is Jharkhand's Chief Minister Hemant Soren. Remember, Droupadi Murmu was governor in Jharkhand. But let's first kick off with the 9 headlines at 9. Droupadi Murmu appears all set to become India's next president against the opposition's Yashwant Sinha in the race to Raisina Hill on a day when across the country MPs, MLAs, prime ministers and ministers vote for deciding कौन बनेगा राष्ट्रपति. NDA's nominee Jagdeep Dhankar files his nomination for the post of Vice President. Opposition nominee is former Union Minister Margaret Alva. She will file her papers tomorrow. As the Parliament monsoon session kicks off, Rajya Sabha is adjourned over protest on rising prices. GST on milk, dahi and other products has gone up. Prime Minister Modi appeals for a productive session. Suicide of a student sparks massive outrage in Tamil Nadu's Kalakuruchi. Madras High Court orders a fresh autopsy, asks state to identify the rioters. Family alleges foul play by school. Fact checker Zubair gets relief as Supreme Court orders no further action in UP FIRs, expresses worry over vicious cycle of arrests. His case will be heard on Wednesday to bring all the FIRs in one group. Suspended BJP Neta Nupur Sharma files a plea seeking protection against arrest in multiple FIRs against her. Matter listed for hearing in Supreme Court tomorrow. NEET shocker from Kerala. Over 90 students asked to remove innerwear before entering an exam center in Kollam district. NHRC orders probe, seeks report in 15 days. India confirms a second case of monkeypox in Kerala's Kannur. Centre reviews functioning of health screening of international travellers arriving in India at airports. And the rupee reverses from early strength, falls to a new low of 79.97 against US dollar. Second straight week of fall on worries of persistent forex outflows. But tonight, our focus at the very top. Kaun banega Rashtrapati? India is all set to get its 15th president in a few days from now. Today, the polls were held to the presidential elections with NDA's Droupadi Murmu and the opposition's Yashwant Sinha, the two main contenders. The voting that took place on Monday saw all the major parties and their leaders voting in Parliament and in state assemblies. The Election Commission, in fact, says the election saw an over 99% turnout. The numbers as of now are heavily stacked in Murmu's favour, with even some non-NDA allies like Jagan Mohan Reddy's party and the Biju Janata Dal supporting the NDA candidate. The results will be out on Thursday. It's our top story tonight.
The race to India's highest constitutional office, the NDA's Droupadi Murmu versus the depleted opposition's Yashwant Sinha. From Prime Minister Narendra Modi and lawmakers in Parliament to Chief Ministers and MLAs in state assemblies, voting was done to pick the next occupant on Raisina Hill. BJP stalwarts including Home Minister Amit Shah and opposition heavyweights took part in the voting process. Former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh had to be assisted for the voting owing to his frail health. UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath, Odisha Chief Minister Naveen Patnaik, Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan, Maharashtra's new Chief Minister Eknath Shinde, Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Jagan Mohan Reddy, Tamil Nadu's MK Stalin were among those who participated in the electoral process in their respective assemblies. There were instances of cross-voting from the opposition ranks in favour of Murmu, including a Congress MLA in Odisha and a Samajwadi Party MLA in UP.
इस मिट्टी के लिए मेरा भी कुछ कर्तव्य है, तो इसलिए स्वाधीन मन से ये चिंता करके हमने निष्पत्ति लिया, सोचा कि व्यक्तिगत रूप से मेरी वोट द्रौपदी मुर्मू को जाना चाहिए, तो इसलिए मैं द्रौपदी मुर्मू को वोट दिया।
Bengal BJP MLAs who were herded into a hotel ahead of the voting turned up in the assembly donning tribal gamchas as a mark of respect for Murmu's tribal roots. Facing certain defeat, Yashwant Sinha made a sensational allegation.
मैं एक पॉलिटिकल लड़ाई ही नहीं लड़ रहा हूं। आप सब जानते हैं कि मैं सरकारी एजेंसियों के खिलाफ भी लड़ाई लड़ रहा हूं। इसमें सरकारी एजेंसियां बहुत सक्रिय हो गई हैं और राजनीतिक दलों में तोड़फोड़ करवाने का काम कर रही हैं। लोगों को इस बात के लिए बाध्य कर रही हैं कि वो उनके पक्ष में वोट डालें और पैसे का भी खेल हो रहा है।
Draupadi Murmu has a clear edge with the game of numbers favouring her and several non-NDA parties pledging support to her. The counting of the presidential polls will take place on July the 21st and Rashtrapati Bhavan will have a new occupant on July the 25th. It looks like India is all set for its first tribal president. With Rahul Srivastav in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
So let's look at how the numbers first stack up. The BJP has, as of now, over 450,000 electoral college votes. That's substantially ahead of where Droupadi Murmu, substantially ahead of Yashwant Sinha. She also gets votes from YSRCP, which has over 45,000 votes from Andhra Pradesh. The Biju Janata Dal from Odisha has also given her support. 31,000 votes will come from there. So the numbers are heavily weighted in her favor, because if you look at Yashwant Sinha's numbers, the Congress, TMC and SP give him the maximum electoral votes. But the gap is a huge one. You add the two and Droupadi Murmu is clearly well ahead of where Yashwant Sinha would be. Shiv Sena, AIDMK, BSP also promising her support. So if you look at this, Droupadi Murmu likely to get, we believe, around 6,60,000 votes. And Yashwant Sinha well behind 4,13,000. So almost a third of votes ahead of Yashwant Sinha. Which means, of course, that India could get its first ever Adivasi woman president. First Adivasi president. Which is why I want to start off today by raising first the political question, which is, will Droupadi Murmu, as the opposition alleges, be a rubber stamp president? Will she be a symbol of social and political empowerment, as the BJP claims? Has the NDA government outsmarted the opposition in presidential election by putting up someone like Droupadi Murmu? Joining me now is the Congress MP who was the election agent in Parliament for Yashwant Sinha, Syed Nasir Hussain, their MP, Kakoli Ghosh Dastidar, Trinamool Congress MP, and Syed Zafar Islam, former BJP MP and spokesperson. I want to come to you, Syed Nasir Hussain, right at the outset, because it appears that this is a done deal. Will you concede defeat? That as of now, numbers heavily stacked in favor of Yashwant Sinha. It's all over, bar the shouting. Do you concede that or not?
Rajdeep, well over the years and decades in Indian presidential election, it has generally been the candidate of the ruling party or the ruling alliance who has won the election. If you look at the percentage of votes that was there for the winning candidate in 2012 and 2017, so it was 65-70% for the ruling candidate, and the candidate who lost the election was about 30-35%, something of that sort. So if NDA manages to get that kind of an vote share even in this election, I would feel that that NDA has really managed it. Anything less than that would show that they have not managed it well. But anyway, there are lots of
no, our numbers show, Mr. Hussain, our numbers show that they will be well above 65%. They are getting Shiv Sena votes, they are getting JMM votes, they are getting AIADMK votes. Even your ally, you are in government in Jharkhand with the JMM, they are voting because they say Droupadi Murmu is a tribal woman. You've got the Shiv Sena, which believe Droupadi Murmu is a fine candidate. They are voting for her. The general sense is that Droupadi Murmu has managed to get even a wider range of votes than even the original NDA numbers.
But Rajdeep, that is, see, especially in presidential election, this is not the first time that the alliance partners of the opposition or someone from the opposition has broke ranks and joined the ruling party or voted for the candidate of the ruling party. This has happened. Shiv Sena, when it was there with BJP, they voted for Pranab Mukherjee ji, they voted for Pratibha Patil ji, and then JDU, when they were with BJP, they voted for Pranab Mukherjee ji, and when they were with Congress and RJD, they voted for Ramnath Kovind ji. These things have happened in the past. I don't disagree with you that some parties have, but what is more important is there is a qualitative change from the previous elections where opposition parties voted for the ruling party candidate and now. So who are these parties, those who are voting for the ruling party candidate? How have they been pressurized in voting for the ruling party candidate? What has happened in Maharashtra? How was Maharashtra, Mahavikas Aghadi destroyed in Maharashtra? With the help of ED. How is BSP voting? How is YSRCP voting? These are all the parties which are under tremendous pressure from the central agencies. The presidential candidate of the opposition parties, Mr. Yashwant Sinha, has made it very clear. For the first time, huge sums of money is being offered, huge sums of money is involved, and the agencies are involved to blackmail and intimidate the opposition parties to break ranks with the opposition parties and vote for the ruling party candidate. This is very clear. This is very clear to the people of the country.
Okay, you're claiming that the ED power has been used to get certain opposition parties to switch. I'll get Zafar Islam to respond and then come to Kakuli. Zafar Islam, you want to respond to that? You already have the numbers. But there has been an element of, according to the Congress, element of pressure on the likes of Jagan Mohan Reddy, who has enforcement directorate cases against him, on the Shiv Sena MLAs who have broken away, who have enforcement cases against them, on Hemant Soren, who now has an ED case. Is that true at all, or do you believe this is absolute rubbish?
Oh, you said it very well, Rajdeep, that it was absolutely rubbish. Was it a contest? Really? Did they think that it was a contest? India candidate was getting support from the opposition parties. Was there a contest really? We knew that we will win. Draupadi will win, and not only win, she will get votes from other opposition parties as well. Some of them may have announced, some of them have not announced that they also have voted for Draupadi. I think it is very unfair to make this kind of statement on the part of Yashwant Sinha, because he knew that he is going to lose. But still, he has been advised, many people, I read so many articles and tweets of many senior leaders in the country who have advised him not to fight this election because he is going to certainly lose this election. Okay. Yet, he chose to fight, and making this kind of allegation only because he is losing candidate is absolutely unfair, and baseless allegations should not be made by somebody who has been once upon a time a finance minister of this great country.
So you're saying these are baseless allegations. The other side, Kakuli Ghosh Dastidar, would be that maybe you could have evolved a consensus on Droupadi Murmu, woman, Adivasi. Even Mamata Banerjee has now said that if they had known in advance that Droupadi Murmu was the candidate of the opposition, or of the government, they would have actually considered supporting her. Do you believe that the Trinamool Congress also jumped the gun with Yashwant Sinha, that you could have perhaps waited for the government to announce Droupadi Murmu and then maybe supported her? We could have had a consensus candidate as President of India for once.
That would have been a different story, I agree with you, but the new political trend in India is to abolish the opinion and presence of the opposition. You know, it would have been very political if the ruling party would have discussed with the opposition. Now, when 17 opposition parties get together and field a candidate, then how can you just come away from there? What Mamata Banerjee said is that, and she's shown it in her work also, that she's educated 80 lakh of girl children in the state of West Bengal, where she's the third-time chief minister, that she has a soft corner for women's empowerment. And also the Adivasi is very close to her heart, that we can understand that she's made 4 Adivasi elected MLAs ministers in the state.
So she could have easily supported Droupadi Murmu.
So of course she could have, if this could have been discussed with her prior to the declaration of the opposition candidate. Why was it kept under wraps? Because Bharatiya Janata Party does not trust the opposition, and now we see they don't even trust their own.
No, they've exposed your opposition divisions. They've exposed the divisions in the opposition. They brought a woman and an Adivasi, and suddenly they changed the rules of the game. It's a political masterstroke, some would say.
No, what we would say is that they are always thinking of the elections. They're not thinking of the people. They're not thinking of the Adivasi sentiment or the woman sentiment. What they're thinking is, you can see from the recent events in Maharashtra, see, they are only thinking of votes because forthcoming elections are going to be in states like Madhya Pradesh, where we have a good Adivasi voter turnout. And so they are always thinking of grabbing power, which is very unhealthy for democracy.
You know, I thought politics was at one level about grabbing power, but the flip side of that, Zafar Islam, is that this is a rubber stamp president. You criticized the Congress when Pratibha Patil was made, saying she's going to be a rubber stamp. Now the opposition is saying the same. Droupadi Murmu, she hasn't even had a press conference. She hasn't told us what she's going to stand for when she becomes president. In all the photographs, when she's with the Prime Minister is larger than life. Droupadi Murmu is in the background. She's a rubber stamp president, is the allegation which has been made by the opposition. You convene it. She's not. She's only there because she will never oppose what Mr. Modi says.
Well, when the opposition has nothing else to speak, they know that they have lost. They chose the wrong candidate, Yashwant, while NDA had chosen the right candidate. And even the message was very loud and clear for Congress spokesperson, where the CNC spokesperson has very candidly accepted that she was the right candidate. Perhaps if we could have announced earlier, then probably there would have been a consensus as well.
But is she not a rubber stamp? But is she not a rubber stamp?
No, absolutely not. What is a rubber stamp?
What you called Pratibha Patil. You called Pratibha Patil a rubber stamp, and Pratibha Patil had a longer political career in a way than Droupadi Murmu also has had.
You must understand the background of Droupadi Murmu as well. She was also a cabinet minister in Odisha. She was a governor earlier. She knows how to conduct as a governor. She knew how to conduct as the governor in Jharkhand. Now she understands the responsibility to be charged as the President of India, and she will do that.
Okay. You know,
why make this kind of a statement just because she is a lady and she comes from the SP background? That's why she is being targeted.
No. So you made, as I said, the BJP, sir, the BJP made the same accusation of Pratibha Patil, who was India's first woman president. But Nasir Hussain, respond to what Zafar Islam is saying. He's saying yesterday we had Tejasvi Yadav saying she'll be a statue. Yeah. No, 1 minute. Surely she should be allowed to prove herself. Is it that because she's a woman, because she's an Adivasi, she becomes a soft target to say that she's a rubber stamp? When she was in Jharkhand, she had actually sent back a bill of the BJP on forest rights because she thought it was anti-Adivasi. There was a BJP government there. So Droupadi Murmu is not a pushover, Mr. Nasir Hussain.
See, Rajdeep, if you look at the presidents that have been there in our country in the past decades, you will understand that they were all giants in their own fields. They had immensely contributed in their own fields.
No, Pratibha
they have
Patil
been
was no giant.
Champions of causes to which they
Pratibha
represented.
Patil was no giant.
So you tell me, Pratibha Patil had a long political career, and she was also a governor, and she was also the champions of women's causes in her own way.
So is Droupadi Murmu.
And you tell me, there's an outgoing president now, and there's an incoming president now. You tell me what is the cause that she has championed, or what is the cause that the outgoing president has championed? Outgoing president is supposed to represent the depressed classes. What has happened when there were anti-Dalit riots in Uttar Pradesh, when there were anti-Dalit riots in Madhya Pradesh, when there were anti-Dalit riots in so many parts of our country? Did he include even one word, one sentence, one paragraph against these anti-Dalit riots in his presidential address all these years? Will Murmu do the same thing?
Sayyid Zafar
Has
Islam?
she done one press conference? Has she given one statement against anti-tribal rights that has happened, atrocities that has happened in the country? And today BJP is championing the cause of the tribals. You know what is it doing with the tribal with the Forest Act?
Rajdeep, let me
you know what it is doing with you? How it is trying to do you know how it is doing with the Forest Rights Act? Lakhs and lakhs of tribals were empowered with the Forest Rights Act. It is undoing it.
Okay, let Zafar Islam. Zafar Islam, just a minute.
Stand with the opposition when the opposition was speaking about the Land Acquisition Act. Let
Zafar Islam respond. Yes.
Anybody who stands for a particular cause should have championed that cause in their own way.
Can I just respond
so only then they will be able to do justice as the president of the country.
Okay, you know, Zafar Islam, it is one thing to have, and we must all celebrate India's first Adivasi president, as she is almost certain to be. But it comes at a time when your government is amending the Forest Rights Act that effectively would allow, according to the critics, private developers to clear the forests without obtaining permission of the forest dwellers. So Adivasis are across the country in several parts agitating about it. But you will have an Adivasi. Is this just tokenism? Ki karna tha isliye kar diya because you will get votes in the name of Droupadi Murmu as a symbol of Adivasi empowerment?
Not at all, Rajdeep. In fact, I would request Congress spokesperson to do some backtesting. Perhaps Congress has always chosen a candidate who could have been a rubber stamp, and potentially they were a rubber stamp. But in our approach, very clear, and the Honorable Prime Minister has not once, but time and again has very candidly expressed that he wants to empower the common man on the street. People who have not been empowered by and neglected by the earlier government are the ones who will be given attention by this government, and that's what we are doing.
The Congress will claim they have given great scholars like Dr. Radhakrishnan, Zakir Hussain. They've been made president. Some politicians of stature like R. Venkatraman, Shankar Dayal Sharma became presidents. Now what is happening? Just a minute. No, 1 minute, Mr. Hussain. With every successive president, we are finding stature is no longer matters. Does Droupadi Murmu, let's be very honest, as I said, all credit to her, woman, Adivasi has come up through adversity. But is she a president of stature? Would you say, Zafar Islam, that she has true stature?
Of course. Why are you discounting her credentials? She has everything in her to become President of India. And she can be equated with the best President of India has ever given. Okay. Because she has everything. First of all, she has been a governor where she has discharged her responsibilities where neither the ruling party nor the opposition party could have ever made any statement against her. Purely because of the conduct as the head of the state. She has done that, and she will continue to do that here as well.
You know, she was a fine governor. I have spoken to people in Jharkhand who say that she was a fine governor when she was there in the state. Therefore, in conclusion, Kakoli Ghosh Dastidar, is this... will Thursday be a moment of pride? You've been advocating for greater women's empowerment. You've been, Mamata Banerjee, as you said, speaks about tribal empowerment. Will this be a moment to celebrate? Or is this a moment of concern that you believe every institution now has rubber stamp figures in them?
With due respect to the chair of Honorable Rashtrapati Ji, because we are looking forward to the chair, I would like to point out that when she was the governor, then the highest number of atrocities, cases of atrocities against Adivasis has been reported in the NCRB. And also, this government has not taken care of the Adivasis because they have brought out bills and they are also taking measures by which they are handing over Adivasi land to the corporate. They are bringing out bills by which the Adivasi is not taken care of.
Okay.
So there is no respect for Adivasis, no respect for women as far as the Bharatiya Janata Party is concerned. This is only tokenism. Not only that, they are looking for the votes that this will bring in the forthcoming elections.
Okay. Let's leave it there. That's the politics of it. That's how the opposition sees Droupadi Murmu and how the government sees her. I appreciate you all joining me. I want to now move to Droupadi Murmu herself, because many of you perhaps haven't heard of her in the past. Droupadi Murmu's town and native village in Odisha remembers her today as a compassionate lady who's revered as an elder sister in the neighborhood. She's gone through much personal tragedy, lost 2 of her sons, but that hasn't stopped her from continuing with her social and political work in her village in Odisha. Our correspondent Suryagni Roy with video journalist Shyam Sundar Ghosh were with her family hometown of Rairangpur and give you this ground report.
To know about the life and stories of Droupadi Murmu, India Today arrived at Rairangpur in Orissa. We met several people who told us various stories about this particular lady who was once the governor of Jharkhand. Now, be it her friends, her family members, her former colleagues, even people who worked under her when she was a teacher had various stories to share about her.
Rairangpur in Mayurbhanj district of Odisha is proud to be the town that witnessed the rise of Droupadi Murmu. She worked here as a teacher before becoming a councillor, an MLA, a minister, and then governor. More than 280 kilometers from the capital of Odisha, this is where she built her life after her elder daughter passed away.
She is a lady with a heart. On the one side, she is an iron lady. She would like to take strong action in one hand. In other, she would talk very politely and very compassionately with the public.
Droupadi Murmu's brother Tarini Sen Tudu lives in her house in Rairangpur while the rest of the family keeps visiting.
वो like any other mother, कभी-कभी strict भी है, कभी-कभी soft भी है, और she is like any other mother.
In the school where she worked as a teacher between 1994 and 1997, she is remembered fondly as Didi, or elder sister.
रूल रेगुलेशन भी करूथिले आ समस्तनकर सहित भलो संपर्क भी रहउतला आ छोटे छोटे छुआ मन को भी भलो व्यवहार भी करूथिले समस्त स्टाफ मान का सहित भी भलो सब संपर्क रहितला लोक मान कर सहित भी भलो सब संपर्क रहितला.
The school premises that we see over here is also testimony to the fact that before 1997, before she became an elected representative, she was a teacher. And the school is still here, students are here. The school has expanded, its classes are still on. However, what is not over here is Droupadi Murmu, who was a teacher and she used to teach all these subjects in this middle school.
Nearly half an hour drive away is the village where Droupadi Murmu was born. Uparbeda village has changed since her childhood. The school she studied in has grown to become a high school with smart classes. Back in the 60s, it was only a primary school.
Droupadi Murmu had to leave the village of Uparbeda. The reason was that the school that she went to in this particular village was a primary one. That means it was there till class 5. And that is the reason why she had to leave for Bhubaneswar for further studies. In 2022, things have completely changed over here in this particular village of Uparbeda.
Droupadi Murmu's native house is a well-constructed one compared to the kacha house of the neighborhood.
रात में उन लोग फोन किए थे तो मेरा हो रहा है राष्ट्रपति तो हम लोग को बहुत खुश महसूस हुआ.
Droupadi Murmu is the second scheduled tribe candidate and the first tribal woman to have been nominated for the post of President of India. This remote village in Odisha waits to celebrate her journey to the President's house. With Suryagni Roy, Bureau Report, India Today.
So will Droupadi Murmu be a symbol of political and social empowerment of Adivasis as India's first Adivasi president? Joining me now, Hemant Soren, Jharkhand Chief Minister, who has also supported Droupadi Murmu. Nandini Sundar is author, activist, as well as academic who's tracked India's tribal movements very closely for several years. Now, Hemant Soren, to you first. आप बताइए, आप कांग्रेस के साथ सरकार में है झारखंड में, लेकिन जेएमएम ने इसके बावजूद निर्णय लिया कि आप द्रौपदी मुर्मू को सपोर्ट करेंगे. वो झारखंड में गवर्नर भी रही है. क्या वजह है? केवल कि वो ट्राइबल है इसी वजह से और कोई फैक्टर था?
पहली बात तो मैं राजदीप जी बताऊं आपको, ये राष्ट्रपति चुनाव को लगता है अभी हम लोगों ने कई नजरों से देखना प्रारंभ किया है और मुझे लगता है देश में सबकी नजर राष्ट्रपति चुनाव को लेकर कम से कम एक कॉमन होनी चाहिए थी, जो आज ये देखने को कम मिला, इधर उधर बंटता हुआ दिखाई दिया। और अगर कहें कि ये चुनाव में जो हम लोगों ने वोटिंग करा वो एक ऐसे वर्ग को वोटिंग किया है जो अपने एक लंबी संघर्ष के बाद उसे कुछ हासिल होता है। आज मैं भी यहां मुख्यमंत्री हूं तो इतनी आसानी से नहीं हूं और आज द्रौपदी जी नहीं बल्कि एक वर्ग का एक व्यक्ति या एक महिला उस पद पे जा रही हैं जो देश का सर्वोच्च पद है और यही उद्देश्य है। अब पार्टी का निर्णय रहा कि इस जगह जो ये वर्ग जो आदिवासी समाज के लोग बड़ी मुश्किलों से कहीं कहीं जगहों पर अपनी जगह बना पाते हैं और कभी मौका मिला, कभी नहीं मिला, कभी मजबूती से मिला, कभी बहुत कमजोरी से मिला। तो आज लगता है कि कहीं ना कहीं धीरे धीरे ये समाज भी राजनीतिक तौर पर मजबूत हो रहा है।
लेकिन ये भी सवाल उठ रहा है सोरेन जी कि राज्य में, आपके बगल के राज्य में बिहार से तेजस्वी यादव ने कहा कि द्रौपदी मुर्मू एक मूर्ति रहेगी, शी विल बी अ स्टैच्यू, रबर स्टैम्प प्रेसिडेंट बनेगी। कैसे देखते हैं? कोई प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस नहीं की, जनता के सामने कभी नहीं आई, कैसे आप इसे देखते हैं जब ये आरोप लगता है शी विल बी अ रबर स्टैम्प प्रेसिडेंट फॉर द मोदी गवर्नमेंट?
देखिए, ये रबर स्टैम्प रहेंगी कि एक मूर्ति के रूप में रहेंगे ये तो आने वाला समय बताएगा और मैं ये नहीं कहता कि ये आदिवासी समाज के लिए आखिरी पायदान है, लेकिन हाँ ये जरूर है वहां तक पहुंचने की अब क्षमता लगभग आदिवासी वर्ग में है। यही वजह है कि आज हमने इसको थोड़ा एक सपोर्ट किया और चूंकि हमारे राज्य में गवर्नर के तौर पर भी रही हैं और उस कार्यकाल को भी हम लोगों ने ध्यान में रखा और जो इनका अपने टेन्योर से अधिक कार्यकाल यहां जो इन्होंने बिताया वो कहीं ना कहीं राज्य की कुछ संवेदनशील विषय को बहुत अच्छे तरीके से प्रभावित की गई है उनके द्वारा और इस आशा उम्मीद के साथ तो दुनिया जीता है, हम भी हैं, नहीं तो जंगे मैदान तो सबके लिए तैयार खड़ा।
Nandini Sundar, you want to respond to what you are hearing from Hemant Soren? He says this is a landmark moment in a way for Adivasi political empowerment. As someone who's tracked it for years, do you believe she's a token symbol of it or something more substantive?
I'm happy that India is about to get its first woman scheduled tribe president. I think this has been a long time in the coming and perhaps that's why we see such support across parties. And it's a real shame that 8.6% of the population has not been represented in the post of president so far. I think that any president that the BJP would have chosen would have been a rubber stamp president. because unfortunately all institutions today are being subverted. Even the judiciary, as we see, is rubber stamping several claims by the central government. Various state agencies are acting at the behest of the state government, of the central government. So I don't think she'd have been any worse than anybody else. And I think we need to make a distinction between representation and her ability to represent. So while I'm very happy that finally scheduled tribes have got representation, I'm not sure that she will really represent Adivasis in the way that they need to be represented, because all the BJP policies are anti-Adivasi. If you look at the recent changes to the forest rules which allow Adivasi land to be given away, if you look at the fact that India is now 101 out of 127 in the hunger index, and this predominantly affects Adivasis because they are the ones who are massively represented in that hunger index. If you look at the changes to the mining rules, and while Droupadi Murmu was good in the sense that as governor she returned the CNTA and SPTA, which are very closely bound up with identity in Jharkhand, she accepted the freedom of religion bill, which criminalizes conversion, and various other bills which were also anti-Adivasi. So I'm happy that at least the representation is there, but as to what she'll do for Adivasis, I don't know. I don't think she'll really do very much, because the BJP is not interested in them.
But still you support the fact that an Adivasi woman is on the verge of reaching Rashtrapati Bhavan. You believe in that sense she does become a symbol of hope for the future.
Well, I think that, all things being equal, I am happy that we have or likely to have a scheduled tribe woman president. But I don't think the post of president is important anymore, because whoever the BJP would have chosen would have been doing what they wanted them to do. They wouldn't have been independent, and I think that's really unfortunate, because sadly the post of president has been reduced to something quite insignificant. So I'm happy that it's being occupied by a scheduled tribe woman, but I wish the post of president had more substantive pride to it and had not been reduced, like all the central agencies and the judiciary, to being rubber stamps.
Speaking of central agencies, Hemant Soren, ये बताइए, अटकलें दिल्ली में लगाई जा रही है कि आप धीरे धीरे बीजेपी के नजदीक आ रहे हैं। आफ्टर महाराष्ट्र, झारखंड, प्रधानमंत्री झारखंड आए कुछ दिन पहले, बहुत बड़ा स्वागत हुआ उनका, और ये भी कहा जा रहा है बिकॉज देयर आर एनफोर्समेंट डायरेक्टेड केसेस अगेंस्ट यू, एनफोर्समेंट केसेस आपके खिलाफ है, उस दबाव में आप धीरे धीरे बीजेपी और एनडीए के करीब आ रहे हैं, एंड सपोर्टिंग द्रौपदी मुर्मू इज वन स्टेप टुवर्ड्स दिस। इसमें कितनी सच्चाई है हेमंत सोरेन जी?
अब ये द्रौपदी मुर्मू, राजदीप जी देखिए, द्रौपदी मुर्मू जी को प्रत्याशी बनाया गया है, ये तो मैंने नहीं कहा उनको कि इनको अब बनाओ। ये प्रपोजल उधर से ही इन लोगों ने बनाया, उन लोगों ने इनको आगे किया है। और इन द मीन टाइम प्रधानमंत्री जी का राज्य में कई प्रोग्राम का शिलान्यास उद्घाटन होता है। ये शिलान्यास उद्घाटन का प्रधानमंत्री जी के कार्यक्रमों के बारे में आपको पता ही है, और स्वाभाविक है बतौर मुख्यमंत्री हमारी भी उसमें भूमिकाएं हैं, राज्य सरकार के संसाधनों का भी उसमें सहभागिता है। जो भी चीजें आज जिस विषय को लेकर प्रधानमंत्री जी आए उसमें झारखंड के लोगों का बहुत बड़ा योगदान है, तो स्वाभाविक रूप से इसका प्रतिनिधित्व भी तो झारखंड करेगा। और रही बात ईडी और सीबीआई की बात, ये आज से नहीं राजदीप जी, ये बहुत समय से हम लोग देख रहे हैं, इसकी चिंता हमें नहीं है। और ईडी सीबीआई अपना जो काम कर रहे हैं, उनका अपना काम में किसी भी तरीके का कोई हस्तक्षेप हमने अभी तक नहीं किया, और हमें उसके कार्रवाई से हमारे कामों में, हमारे रोजमर्रा जो विषय है सरकार के, उसमें कोई प्रभाव नहीं।
तो आप कह रहे हैं ED has nothing to do with your decision to support Draupadi Murmu. A final word, Nandini Sundar. Before that, I just want to say this. You know, we want to run this. Over 100 tribals have just today walked out of the central jail in Jagdalpur after a local court in Dantewada acquitted them in the 2017 Maoist terror case. So they've been acquitted. They've spent 5 years in jail. The tribals were released because the court found no evidence against them. Remember, there's a Congress government in the state that had promised to release them before the elections that took place in 2017. 24 CRPF personnel were killed in an ambush by Naxalites in 2017, and a total of 121 villagers were arrested. 7 of them were minors. One of the villagers died in jail. Today they were acquitted. There was no evidence. Final word, therefore, from you, Nandini Sundar, is really the Adivasi community the one which will still have to face a long march in a way to true freedom? Is that in a way going to be a challenge? Maybe Draupadi Murmu needs to focus on that, make her presidency about that.
That would be really good if she actually took up Adivasi issues. As you pointed out, this is really shocking that people should have spent 5 years in jail and they will get no compensation. There is no attempt to prosecute those who are responsible for keeping innocent people in jail. And the president has a major responsibility to look after the scheduled tribes communities. In fact, the 5th schedule of the Constitution mandates the governors to report to the president about the status of scheduled tribe communities in their state. So if Draupadi Murmu can actually take up some of these issues, the mass incarceration both in Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh, everywhere that people are being falsely accused of being Maoists, and even as we you mentioned this case of 121 Adivasis being freed. There's also the other shocking judgment whereby the Supreme Court has not only dismissed a case where Adivasis were killed, which was widely reported at that time, but has imposed exemplary costs on the petitioners and demanded that they be arrested just on the say-so of the police.
Right.
So, if the police could be trusted in everything, why do we need the judiciary? Why do we need the president? So if Draupadi Murmu can take up these issues, it would be really something important that she could do.
In that sense, maybe she can, and she has certainly broken one ceiling, but she needs to really walk the talk in a sense. She has an enormous ability as Rashtrapati Bhavan to at least focus on Adivasi rights issues. Nandini Sundar, Hemant Soren, I appreciate your joining me here on the news today in our special focus on the lady who's set to become India's next president. Let's turn from there to our other big story tonight, because revised GST rates came into effect today, and guess what? Pre-packed and labeled food items like atta, paneer, dahi will now attract 5% GST. Treatment in private hospitals too gets costlier. We've focused on that in the past. But today, this hike in the middle of inflation is leading to political temperatures rising. Take a look.
Get ready for a hole in your pockets. From household items to hotel and bank services, GST rate hike for several items came into effect on Monday. Pre-packed and labelled food items like atta, paneer and curd weighing less than 25 kg will attract 5% GST. 18% GST will be levied on Tetra Packs. Treatment in private hospitals too gets costlier. 5% GST on hospital rooms with rent above 5,000. 18% GST on fees charged by banks for the issue of checks, loose or in book form. Hotel rooms with tariff of up to ₹1,000 per day. Maps and charts, including Atlas, will also be taxed at 12%. There was confusion on the ground, with many businesses saying they are not aware of how it will affect them.
जीएसटी के इस सफर में अनेक परेशानियों का सामना व्यापारियों को करना पड़ रहा है, जिसको देखते हुए कन्फेडरेशन ऑफ ऑल इंडिया ट्रेडर्स ने आगामी 26 जुलाई से भोपाल से एक राष्ट्रीय आंदोलन शुरू करने की घोषणा की है.
The consumer too is not pleased with the tax hike.
अगर हमारी कॉस्ट बढ़ेगी तो जाहिर है कि कस्टमर पे करेगा उसको, और उससे महंगाई बढ़ेगी. मैं तो ये कहना चाहूँगा कि गवर्नमेंट जो है इस बारे में पुनः विचार करे और इसको रिफंड ले.
आम आदमी की तरफ देखते हुए इन चीज़ों के ऊपर जो आपने जीएसटी लगाया है वो वापस ले, और आम आदमी को और जो है महंगाई से छुटकारा दिलाए.
the opposition is up in arms. Congress MP Rahul Gandhi accused the BJP of destroying one of the world's fastest growing economies with high taxes and no jobs. The BJP blamed the global inflation.
गरीब आदमी मध्यम वर्ग का आदमी मानता है वही की स्थिति खराब है, बेरोजगारी ऊपर से है। आप बताइए ऐसे माहौल के अंदर आप जीएसटी उन चीजों में लगा दी जो आम वस्तुएं हैं खाने पीने की, उसमें लोगों का रिएक्शन है, सरकार को वापस लेना चाहिए उसको।
कांग्रेस पार्टी और कुछ और ऐसी दल हैं जो लोगों को गुमराह करने की कोशिश करते हैं और इस तरह का स्टंट बार बार करते हैं, लेकिन जनता जानती है सच्चाई, जनता हकीकत जानती है कि पहले भी वैट था, वैट लगता था इस पे और आज कोई नई चीज नहीं हुई है, इसलिए इस तरह के स्टंट उनको ही बैकफायर करेंगे और इसका जवाब जनता ही देगी।
With inflation becoming the biggest challenge for the economy, there are fears the hike in GST rates could worsen the impact of price rise on the common people. Bureau Report, India Today.
Let's turn from there to tonight's Get Real India story. A sanitation worker in Mathura has lost his job after photos of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath were found on his trash cart. Bobby, the 40-year-old sanitation worker, says the photos were part of the garbage he'd picked. He had no idea that that would lead to his removal from his job. Tonight, it's our Get Real India story.
When Bobby, a sanitization worker in Mathura, collected garbage, little did he know of the storm that was about to hit him.
भैया फोटो निकालो ना आप, किनका है ये फोटो? ये फोटो किनका है? किनका फोटो है ये? दिखाओ।
In the handcart used by him to move garbage were the photos of UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He was stopped by a group of people.
ये देखिए आप, माननीय योगी आदित्यनाथ जी का फोटो है ये, मोदी जी का फोटो, माननीय मोदी जी का फोटो आप देखो डस्टबिन में, भारत के प्रधानमंत्री का। भैया क्या नाम है आपका?
Asking him how could he put photos of Prime Minister Modi and Chief Minister Adityanath in the waste cart. Bobby explained he had picked them from a pile of garbage.
आपको कहाँ से मिला?
कूड़े में मिली, ढेर जो भरा मैंने।
देखिए
The group washed the photos clean and claimed they were taking them home. They filmed the entire exchange and shared it on social media, where it went viral.
देखिए, ये मोदी जी का फोटो और ये योगी जी का फोटो।
कूड़ेदान में सब कुछ बढ़िया।
The Mathura Vrindavan municipal body lost no time and got into the act, cracking the whip.
इस कृत्य में सफाई करने की लापरवाही परिलक्षित होती है एवं नगर निगम मथुरा वृंदावन द्वारा संविदा सफाई कर्मचारी श्री बाबी पुत्र दुलीचंद पर तत्काल कार्रवाई करते हुए उसकी सेवाएं समाप्त कर दी गई हैं।
The 40-year-old sanitization worker pleads innocence. Speaking to India Today, Bobby, who's sacked from service, says he does not know how the pictures landed in the garbage dump.
कूड़े के ढेर में जो है तस्वीर वगैरह पड़ी थी, ढेर में पड़ी थी सर, मुझे तो दिखी भी नहीं, कीचड़ में हो रही थी, गंदगी में। वो लोग वो कूड़ा मैंने उठा के ढकेल में धर लिया सर। तो मेरे संग न्याय हो, 3 बच्ची हैं मुझ पे, 2 लड़के हैं, मेरी घरवाली बेरोजगार, मेरे घर में कोई नहीं है, खाने पीने नौकरी चाकरी वाला कोई नहीं है।
The Valmiki Samaj is angry at Bobby's sacking.
निश्चित रूप से वाल्मीकि समाज एकत्रित होकर कर्मचारी के हित में लड़ाई लड़ेगा, आंदोलन करेगा, हड़ताल की बारी आई हड़ताल भी करेंगे हम।
Mathura Vrindavan mayor has announced he will order an inquiry to fix the blame.
माननीय मोदी जी का फोटो आप देखो डस्टबिन में।
This whole news report might sound like it came straight out of a book of fiction, but no, this happened. All the characters in the story are real. Bobby is real. His sacking from service is real. With Madan Sharma from Mathura, Bureau Report, India Today.
Today I want to ask you, do you believe that Bobby should be sacked? He's a sanitation worker and his only crime in a way is that he had picked up these photos and put it in his garbage cart. I hope that there is somebody out there from either the UP CMO or indeed the PMO who's watching this, if you truly speak about Dalit empowerment, if you truly want our sanitation workers to get the respect they deserve, for God's sake, don't allow social media trolls to reduce a man to lose his job. I hope someone is listening, and I hope Bobby gets his job back. That would be really what New India needs. Think about it. Our good news today story comes also from Uttar Pradesh, this time from Banda district. This is the story of Gorelal Tiwari, popularly known as Vrishkanand. Over the last 20 years, he has planted thousands of trees in every available place. Here's today's good news story.
Gorelal Tiwari has only one mission in life. For the last 30 years, he has been planting trees on every available space. So much so, nobody now relates to him as Gorelal. In Banda, Uttar Pradesh, they all call him Vrikshanand. If government buildings, schools and even the police station have an abundance of neem, mango, guava, gooseberry and banyan trees, it's thanks to Vrikshanand's passion. He not only plants the seeds but nurtures them at every step as they grow.
की दिनचर्या है कि ये पेड़ों के प्रति बड़ा स्नेह रहता है। ये इन्होंने कम से कम 10,000 से ऊपर पेड़ लगाए और ये हम लोगों को सिखाते हैं और बताते भी हैं कि इससे प्रकृति को कितना हरा भरा करेंगे और इन्हीं की प्रेरणा से हम लोगों को भी प्रेरणा मिली है और हम लोग भी पेड़ लगाने के लिए इनके साथ तैयार रहते हैं।
Gorelal has lost count of how many trees he has planted in Banda. Some say it's as many as 10,000.
पेड़ लगाने का क्या तात्पर्य है? क्यों लगाते हैं आप पेड़?
ये है कि गांव में हरा भरा बना रहे तो सबका आराम मिलेगा और स्कूल में लगाता हूँ तो बच्चों को छाया मिलती है, वो पढ़ते हैं।
पेड़ कहाँ से पाते हैं आप?
मैं कुछ घर में लगाता हूँ, बौ कर रखूँ और कुछ नर्सरी से ले आए।
Vrikshanand's love for trees has provided much shade in Banda. The tree man's exemplary service to the environment is one that people of this little town in Uttar Pradesh can never forget. Bureau Report, India Today.
The tree man of Banda. Let me leave you with our image of the day. It comes from the voting that took place today for the next President of India. 99% of the MPs and MLAs took part in the exercise. Maybe we should have these elections more often. It ensures they come to Parliament. The image, of course, of Manmohan Singh on a wheelchair and Nirmala Sitharaman coming in her PPE suit because she has COVID were among those that stood out. I leave you with our image of the day. Mulayam Singh on a wheelchair and all the other netas coming in for casting their votes. Thanks for watching. Stay well, stay safe.